and welcome back to the Valley Oak Paper YouTube channel. My name is Cecilia and this is the card I'm going to make today. It's a watercolored Halloween card with a witchy little quokka. The palette I'm using is palette 256 from volume 2 of the Color Cube. It includes 2 blues, a black and 2 browns. It's perfect for a moonlit scene. I'm starting by mixing the paint I need. Today I'm going to use my artist grade watercolors. I've written down the paints I'm going to mix on this little palette, and I mostly followed my plans. The list of paints I used for each color is in the blog post on valleyoakpaper.com if you want to recreate them. The link is in the description box below. For each of the 5 colors, I'm mixing more than enough paint. When I'm done, I'm putting away the watercolor tin and only using the mixed paints. That's the easiest way to stick to a limited palette. This video is part of my monthly YouTube card making hop. The theme for October is obviously Halloween. I'm linking the playlist at the top right. My friends have lots of Halloween inspiration for you. Some of it is scary, some of it is cute, and some is both. The links to each of the videos in the hop is also in the description box below if you want to finish watching this video first. I've stamped my images twice with brown waterproof ink on watercolor paper. The Quokka is from the Cat Scrappiness Dress Up Quokka stamp set. The witch's garb is from the Halloween costume add-on stamp set, so is the skull and the bones. The pumpkins, acorns, and leaves are included in the Thanksgiving add-on set. I'm starting by coloring the star of the show, the Quokka, with my caramel shade that I'm diluting with more water. I'm also coloring her front paws. Then I'm adding an ochre wash to the skull and bones. I'm also coloring the pumpkins, leaves, and acorns with an all-over ochre wash. When everything is dry, I'm adding shading to the Quokka. Then I'm shading the pumpkins. The cheeks on the Quokka got a bit dark, so I'm trying to walk it back with some water. Then I'm adding some detail to the leaves and acorns. I'm using the 2 blue-gray tones for the witch's clothes. First I give the skirt and hat a diluted all-over wash of dark teal. Then I add shading to the broom. I work some more on the other accessories before returning to the skirt and hat with more dark teal. Then I add some ash gray to the top. I used raw ochre on the hat band and caramel on the Quokka's nose. Finally, I add a little bit of shading to the Quokka's upper body in case it shows under her costume. Then it's time for a cap break. Not much left now. I apparently colored in the broom handle without filming it. Then I color the Quokka's hind paws. I color the spider with black and add some shading to the hat band. Then I make the skirt darker and color the patch on the Quokka's skirt with black. My final step is to add Cat Scrappiness pearl powder in the color gold to the buckle and the hat band. Behind the Quokka, I'm going to place a fence and some trees. These are all from the Cat Scrappiness Crafter's Essential Halloween dies. I'm also going to watercolor a background behind everything. Naturally, I'm going to color the die cuts and background with the same colors that I've used for the foreground object. I'm starting with the background and adding a light ochre wash at the bottom. While I wait for that to dry, I color the fence with a gradient with the lightest color at the bottom. Next, I add some washes of black to the top of the background. I keep adding blacks and blues to the background until I'm satisfied with my night scene. Turning to some of the trees, I'm painting them haphazardly with blue and black paints. I keep adding color to them and drying them until I feel they're done. Then I paint the moon with more gold pearl powder. When the background has dried, I'm die cutting it with the second largest die from the Cat Scrappiness cross-stitched frames die set. I really like this background. Then I cut a layer of heavy cardstock with the same die and glue it to the back. I'm die cutting the stamped and colored images with the 3 coordinating die sets. I've also die cut 1 or 2 layers of heavy white cardstock to stack behind the flimsy watercolor paper. But I've learned my lesson, so I don't add heavy cardstock behind layering pieces. For instance, I glue the witchy costume directly to the body of the Quokka. I give the hat a bit of a haircut, so I can use a slit to place the hat behind her left ear. That's super cute. Next, I add the costume behind the Quokka to give the broom extra stability. Once that's dried, I'm giving the heavy cardstock hat a little haircut so it doesn't show below the watercolor paper. Then I glue the back of the Quokka's head and the back of the hat to it. Now this little figure is like a hard chipboard piece, so I can easily glue it to an uneven surface. Before I cleaned my temporary palette, I used some of the leftover paint to color a scrap of watercolor. That's what I'm going to use for my sentiment. The die I'm using is called Happy Halloween Word Dice with Shadow. This is what the shadow die looks like, although I'm not using it today. I've already cut out the word die twice from heavy white cardstock and stacked it for stability and dimension. I'm placing the dies of the darkest colors at the bottom of the sentiment. That's the opposite of the background. When I've die cut it, I'm adding the watercolor layer to the white cardstock layers. Now that I think I have all the pieces I need, I'm starting assembly of my card. First, I glue the moon to the top right corner. Then I place the first tree in the top left corner and another tree at the same level and partly in front of the moon. Next, I glue down my two skulls near the base of the left tree and the bones in front of the right tree. I also add some oak leaves next to the bones, although they don't really show behind the quokka. Finally, I add the third tree in front of the other two. I add some more leaves on the left, so it looks like there's a little hill that the two background trees are standing on. Next, I want to glue down the fence. I have to add more cardstock behind parts of it, or it would look very wavy. I was going to place the sentiment near the top of the card, but I felt that it got lost among the tree branches. So I cut another Happy Halloween from watercolor paper and colored it with more gold pearl powder. I really like this pearl powder. If I heat embossed this in gold, it wouldn't have this pretty shine. Then I'm gluing the gold layer offset behind the other layers. That will help it stand out from the branches. Finally, I glue the whole shebang onto the treetops. I'm going on a bit of a journey when it comes to framing and matting this card. I didn't like the way the card panel looks against a white card base. I tried it against the craft card base, but the craft was too yellow. So I found some brown cardstock in my stash and die cut it with the largest size of the cross-stitched frame dies. I glued the brown mat to the craft card base. Originally, I was going to add the card panel directly to the brown mat. But then I thought about how pretty this gold pearl powder is. Maybe if I added a gold mat between the blue background and the brown mat, that would tie the card together. I tried it and it did indeed. So I added gold pearl powder to the edges of a piece of heavy white cardstock. When it was dry, I glued the card front to the gold mat and the gold mat to the brown mat. Just a few more die cuts to go. We're on the home stretch. I glued two pumpkins to the bottom of the fence. Then I glued down the star of this card, the witchy little quokka. I added another pumpkin in front of the other two. Finally, I added two acorns to the left of the pumpkins to finish the visual triangle created by the witch with her tall hat and the pumpkins. And that finishes today's card. I hope you enjoyed watching me watercolor this little moonlit scene. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the other Halloween hop card makers. I will show you some more still images at the end of the video. You can find links to everything I used in today's card in the description box below, as well as in my blog post on valley-oak-paper.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.